Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Welcome to the Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your guest host, Tracy Kelly, and today joining us will be our main host, Joey Dupont, remotely. And also we have Mr. Paul Childers, who has started Blue Sky Business Solutions. So, Joey, how's it going?
Do you ever have to have the tough conversation with, because I talk to entrepreneurs sometimes that are going through stuff, because I wrote a book called Tenacious Entrepreneur. So I talk to a lot of guys that are struggling through things. And there's sometimes where I tell them, like, look, you need to take it behind the barn and shoot it. I'm sorry. Like, it's your passion. It's your baby. You've nurtured it for 5 years. You've not been to Little League games. You don't have anything to show for it. Your wife's about to leave you. It's time. Like, it's time to have that hard discussion with your family and let them know that, you know what, I'm going to work for Uber or whatever it is you're going to do until you transition and figure out like what's next. Because I feel like that entrepreneurs, like they make horrible employees. So, you know, they're just horrible. Now, not everybody you talk to that owns a business is an entrepreneur.
Yep. Very true.
I think that there's wantrepreneurs and there's entrepreneurs. The wantrepreneur is a guy that just is rebellious. He just didn't want to be told what to do. So he's like, I can do this. Hold my beer. I'm going to start me a business. And you can always identify them because 5-10 years in, it's still them, maybe them and a secretary, but it's just them. They're by themselves. They're the plumber that is by himself and he's, you know, turning wrenches. He might have an assistant, but that's it. Like, it's not the guy that has 40 trucks and he's never going to get to 40 trucks.
No.
And if he comes to you and says, I need a loan to get to 40 trucks, how do you have that conversation with him?
Yeah, you know, it's identifying what the type of person is. What are they set up for? And it's like you said, it can be pretty easy to identify some of them, right? Like, man, I've been working at this for 5 years and I'm still only doing $500,000. Well, why? Like, why would you do that to yourself? Why are you still self-employed? You don't have a business. You just have a job where you just work longer hours and don't get to have weekends off, right? So,
well, and they don't even have a barometer. They don't have like if you're in a hospital, which these guys are calling you and they're in ICU, like, and you're like, hey, there's no heart machine hooked up. Like, we don't even know if you're still alive. Like, like, we need to get a barometer on you to be able to figure out, like, where are you? Are you able to get out of this? Like, every month, every week, I literally have every week, but I get production reports, productivity reports, and profit and loss as if I'm going to make a loan every week from my secretary. And that's her whole responsibility for the week is like, give me the numbers. I need to know if I need to kill the cow. Like, I'll drag it behind the barn myself before the banks come and tell me, oh, you've been losing money on this for 5 years and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you always guide them, you know, at least give them the truth. I'm pretty black and white when it comes to stuff where it's like I look at it and I'm like, here, look, like a loan's not going to help you. Like, a loan's not for you. And in fact, actually, I believe if you take a loan out at this point, all you're going to do is just throw dirt on your grave that much faster, right? So,
right.
If it was me, I would be looking at how do I cut bait and leave and get out of this now before I get any even worse, right? Sometimes I have that conversations with guys that come to me in just a ton of debt. Like, the truth of it is, bankruptcy is probably your easiest option right now. It's not the glamorous option. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, right? I know several entrepreneurs that have had bankruptcy bounce back and 2 to 3 years later are doing better than they were before, right?
Even our president.
Yeah. But sometimes you just have to swallow that frog and just move on with your life, because it is like your situation is what it is, you know, and you don't have information to make any kind of educated decision forward on whether taking a loan out is going to benefit you. And I can already tell you, based off of the way you're managing your business, that adding additional debt on top of it is just going to speed up your demise, right? So why put yourself through another 6 months to 2 years of just hating your life and just be done with it.
Well, and the thing is that you may be like an amazing second. You may be a second that is actually called to come alongside somebody else that is the first, that
Yep.
is the lead guy. You may be the guy that's called to come alongside him, and you can understand him now, and you can identify with his weakness and struggles. And he's dying because he doesn't have a second. So I think, like, hey, you may be that guy, like that. You need to go out and be the guy that comes up and supports the entrepreneur, and not necessarily the entrepreneur.
Yep. And that's
And
okay.
it goes against the tenacious part. But I'm just saying, it's like, you know,
Well,
sometimes you be tenacious to your detriment, I guess is what I'm saying.
I say, yes and no, right? It's just you're maybe being tenacious towards the wrong thing, right?
Right.
That's a lot of stuff in life too, is we tend to sometimes pursue the wrong thing for too long, and it ends up being our downfall, right? Kind of like that the graphic of the dog that's chasing the bird off a cliff, you know. It's like, what are you doing chasing something that you were never meant to chase, type of a
Right.
deal, right?
Right.
And a lot of that is just because you're in the wrong rooms, you're around the wrong people, you've been fed the wrong information your entire life. You've never actually stopped and actually gone, man, is this really what I want to be doing every single day? Or do I want to be doing something different? Every day I wake up, I'm miserable. I get into the truck, I'm miserable. I take phone calls from clients that don't like what I'm doing, I'm miserable. I get home at night, super late, my wife's mad at me, my kids are mad at me, I'm miserable. Like, okay, then this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think real entrepreneurs, the ones that are truly entrepreneurs, are the ones that are building their business around their lives and not building their lives around their business, right? You're
Right.
building, right? When I started this business, my entire goal was to build a team out within 2 to 3 years and be able to start delegating stuff off. My ultimate goal at this company is to become as useless as I possibly can be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a positive goal. I guess the question I would have is like digging back to when you started this, like you were in the car business in 2017. You obviously went into management, you did other things. At what point did you say, hey, I'm just going to launch out and do my own thing?
Yeah, I think it was a series of steps throughout the way, right? I mean, when I first started talking on the show here, I mentioned that I had had several jobs over the course of several years,
Hmm.
all of them developing key abilities and skills that I think led me to where I'm at now. And I never was really like satisfied at one place. I never stayed anywhere real long,
Right.
right? So I would work somewhere, get in, and I'd maybe be there a year or 2 years, and then I'd be gone and go somewhere else because I kind of started feeling that ceiling getting pressed down on me. And I don't like having ceilings pressed down on me, right? And I
Right.
noticed what I didn't put my finger on with that was actually me having more of an entrepreneurial spirit than what I realized. But I didn't grow up in a house with entrepreneurs. I had no exposure to entrepreneurship. I had none of that stuff, right? So this was almost 36 years of just self learning and self identifying to finally go, this is what I want to do. Well, the kind of ironic part was in the car business, I loved automotive, loved everything about it except for the hours and how much time it took away from my family. I
Right.
didn't like that at all. And so that was kind of the piece of it. And then obviously as you're working in different careers as an employee, like there's always little things that come along that just kind of like go, I didn't like that. I don't like being treated like that. I don't think that was very fair, and
Right.
fair relative, but that's all stuff that molds you into what you're doing. And so as I went along, left automotive, went and got a sales director role for a tire company, was on the leadership team there, helped grow that company, helped expand that company, add an additional 6 million in sales to them by doing some, customer success outreach to leads that we hadn't contacted in over 2 years that bought from us that had never been reached back out to. And then was told by an outside board that got hired that my position was not valued at what it should be, and they wanted to give me a demotion. And so I just mutually left that job, right? That was kind of the final drive from automotive to there of going, well, why am I spending so much time building other people's dreams only to be cast aside for a different position or somebody else to come in that they think they can do better than I can? They can do this. They don't appreciate the stuff that I do, right? That they can just kind of throw you aside so much. I didn't like that,
Right.
right? So when I part of that last job, it was, all right, I'm going to just go do this myself, and I'm going to build a company that I'm proud of. I'm going to build a company that helps people. I'm going to build a company that can self-sustain and that I can sell at some point or hand off to my kids if they want to take it over.
Right.
That's right. So it was just a culmination of a lot of different things, a lot of different eye-opening moments, having them hire somebody over you, having them move you into a position that, they just need you to fill a gap somewhere because they know you can go do it and you're going to jump in and figure it out, right? Whether you wanted to do it or not.
Right. Right. I
So,
guess the question I got is like, if you did you ever face any real obstacles or catastrophic, issues in life leading up to this? Because I think that sort of defines you. You know,
I mean, I lost my dad. My dad died, let's see, 4 years ago, about 4 years ago in April. I don't know that that was catastrophic, so to speak.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. My dad died 3 years ago, so I mean, I get it.
you know,
It's it's one of those things. Like, so whenever you fail, which if you haven't, like, I can tell you from my experience, I've failed, and moved back into the driver's seat and been able to succeed. The struggle in failure is that we're not taught how to do it in business school, and
yeah,
we're not taught how to do it in entrepreneurial training. We're only taught how to succeed and to say the positive thing 10 times and 10 times more than we've got it and now we believe it.
yep,
We're never really taught, like, what do you do whenever you fail?
yep.
Whenever you hit a brick wall, like, how do you pivot?
I've been fired, from jobs
Yeah,
before, right? Like,
yeah,
and I knew that I wasn't doing. I've been fired from 3 jobs. Wasn't doing what I should be, wasn't paying attention to stuff. So like I've had that.
yeah,
Uh, we've had, when I first got out of college and was trying to find a job, my wife and I were just making it by off of her income, which was like $1,000 every 2 weeks, so
yeah,
figuring out that lifestyle. So I think, my journey is different in some regards where it's just been me being stubborn and just figuring out a way through
yeah.
everything.
Just piling through it, like, yeah,
Yeah,
figuring it out. Yeah,
yeah, just kind of taking the bull by the horns and going, well, if it's a cliche saying, but if it's got to be, it's going to be me, and just doing it. And every time I would decide that my time was done somewhere else, I made sure that my next position would put us in a better spot. And
yeah,
then when I'm done with something else, I'd go somewhere else and make sure that we were in a better position. And while I was at Target, there were a couple things that happened there, with mismanagement of money, taking money out of the kids' savings to pay for broke down vehicles, just being tired of, the hourly grind and getting paid basically, peanuts for what you're doing, all the time you work for somebody, to then experiencing the car business, the amount of money you can make in the car business, to now in this business that I have now, 2.5 years in. It's just always been appreciating that it's there, but it can get taken away from you really fast.
yeah, yeah. It
Right.
makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense if you're dealing with people that are in financial struggle, or trying to figure out what's next and how to pivot. How do you find those people? Like, I mean, with 1,400 people in your town, you had to talk to all 1,400 of them in the first week. Now, what do you do?
Yeah. So the fascinating thing is I've used social media as a really powerful tool to kind of build my business. And actually the majority of my clients are not even in Minnesota. They're actually across the US and all 50 states.
And you
And
find them, like, when you say social media, like LinkedIn or Facebook
Facebook,
or
Facebook, a
okay,
little bit of
Facebook.
LinkedIn. Now we're to a point where it's a lot of word of mouth referrals, affiliates that we built up that know that we know how we do things, what we do, and appreciate that we just are pretty upfront and honest with people. We don't put people we won't put people into any type of debt if it's not going to be a service to them and there's not a clear ROI to it, right? Or a
Yeah,
clear. I always tell people the worst time to use debt is obviously when you need it desperately to try to stay afloat, but you haven't identified the holes that are sinking your ship first, right?
yeah, yeah. I think that's the key, is like being able to take them into uh, some type of understanding of their relationship with money is broken,
Hmm.
uh, and that's the reason why they're in this situation, is because they don't have the right relationship with it. So if I put $1 million in your checking account, you're going to go buy a Maserati and tell everybody how great you are,
Yep.
because that's where you get your affirmation and your strength from is from having wealth, but not from creating wealth. Like
Yep.
it should be from creating wealth. So your relationship has to change. You have to
Yep.
change to where you earn value from creating wealth. Hey, I took $100,000 and I made 200,000.
Yep.
That should be something you can pat yourself on the back. Then you go buy a Maserati with
That's
the
right.
$200,000 that you made. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
you don't go buy a Maserati with my money.
Right.
That's the thing. I think, like, from your side of the table, like from a lender side, like it's tough to not be taken in by the entrepreneur that's very
Well,
outspoken and glamorous.
and that's actually why I stopped being a direct lender, right? So we have relationships with banks, but our entire premise of our business is set around smart foundational building for lending when needed, right? Data driven, efficiency. We don't make emotional decisions for when we go and get a loan. It's all data driven. It's all financial backed. We understand the ROI. We understand the ROAS. We have a plan to get out of it if things go sideways or start to slip on us.
Right.
We lend in a way that protects personal credit and personal assets so that if things do go sideways, we can get out and protect ourselves as much as we can, right?
Right. Right.
So
When you say ourselves, I mean you as a company or the customer?
the clients that we're working with. So when they're working with
Okay.
lenders, we're very cognizant of what's being collateralized on certain types of loans and how it's being collateralized, right? Our whole goal with clients is to make sure that any type of collateralization is happening only on business assets and isn't bleeding over into the personal asset space, right?
Yeah,
Because
I think that's a very critical thing that you're saying right there. Because what I found was that a lot of people would tell me that they understood that, but they didn't actually understand that. I
yep,
know I didn't. Like, whenever I was 20 when I started my first business, and I had no idea about the way things worked. I got my first $1 million loan on a line of credit from I think G Capital or somebody like that. It was a Textron, a big company. And they loaned me the money, and I was excited, but I didn't read the small print. I didn't know that I actually signed my house, my cars, my other businesses, my like personal guarantees. I had all this stuff tied into it. That when my first business failed, I I didn't realize that. I just thought, well, I'm going to have to file bankruptcy, turn the key off, walk away. But I think that's key. Like, speak to that a little bit. Like, how do you structure your business to where it's not on a personal guarantee?
yeah. So I mean, a lot of it is just kind of where are you at in business? Obviously, there are certain times and certain types of loans and places in a business where you are going to have to personally guarantee stuff. Like if you do an SBA loan, you're almost going to have to personally guarantee it in some way, shape, or form. But that personal guarantee doesn't mean that you have to give up personal collateralization of assets, right? That personal guarantee just means that if your business assets don't cover the collateralization, then they'll come after personal assets only if you can't cover it with your business assets. So when we do these loans, we make sure we've got enough stuff within that business that your personal stuff is going to be free and clear, right? In a
Right.
lot of cases, if the SBA loan's under $300,000, they're not actually going to collateralize anything. If you're getting collateralization on those loans, it's usually the lender that's doing the actual writing of the loan is putting their policies and overlaying them on top of the SBA for their own for their own needs. So we want to
Well, and
actually,
I didn't understand that you could actually say no.
yeah,
Like, you can actually say, hey, take the personal guarantee out of there.
100%.
Uh,
We're going to go
yeah.
to a bank, right? It's funny what happens when you actually start, and this is part of why I got out of being a direct lender is because I like to play banks against each other, right? So you can't do that when you've got a direct contract with somebody that says you're going to send everything to them. I can do that now, and I love it because what happens when you start letting other banks know that you've got other lenders in the game is all of a sudden certain things that they used to make as a sticking point become non-sticking points anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, I just had a client we were taking through an acquisition process, and the first lender he was talking to was like, "Yep, we're going to need to collateralize your home in Hawaii. We're going to need to do this. We're going to need to have 3 years of documents. We're going to have tax returns. We're going to have 3 years of financials." As soon as we told them that there are other lenders in the playing field, the house wasn't even a thing anymore. They're like, yeah, we don't need that. We only need 1 year of tax returns. We only need 1 year of profit and loss statements. Your interest rate, we can get your interest rate down, 1.5 points. And it's like, well, why didn't we start out there? Right? Because they know that most business owners go to one bank, trust what that bank is telling them, and then stick with that one bank and won't go elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's key, man. Paul, I understand the value now. I was sort of trying to grasp what your business model was, but I think being an advocate alongside them to help
Yeah.
them navigate the waters of the loan sharks that are
Yeah.
out there, because they think of loan sharks as the guys with the gold necklaces, but no, it's GE Capital, it's Textron, it's the big boys, the big banks are the ones that are out there in those waters
And
and helping you to navigate it.
you get some of these fintech companies out there, and there's a lot of brokers that are out there. Like business lending right now is really popular, right? Like everybody is getting into business lending. If you pay attention to the business lending space, when Brad Lee, if you're familiar with him, and Grant Cardone started getting
Oh
in,
yeah, yeah.
you knew that there was a problem because there's too much money being made on the back end, because those guys won't get into something unless there's fat profits, right? So there's a problem in this space, but the problem is that nobody is really actually telling business owners what's good, what's bad, how to use it, where to use it, when to use it, how to stay away from stuff, right? On the same token of that, a lot of these guys that are out there in the broker space, right, are always hammering about how traditional lenders are horrible, they're terrible, like they're going to screw you over. And I'm like, well, a lot of the reasons why people don't like traditional lenders is because they don't approach them correctly, because they don't know how to, right? Like I'm not going to take a HVAC company to US Bank and try to get them an SBA loan, because US Bank doesn't like working with that type of a company unless it's set up and structured in a very specific way, because they're a more conservative bank. I'll take them over to like Huntington, or I'll take them to a larger regional bank that's near them after we've vetted that process, and we'll build a relationship with them. On the same token, I'm also going to go use the lending streams that are out there on supplier accounts. Most of your suppliers don't need to have personal guarantees on that stuff. You can actually email them and request to have personal guarantees removed once you've built up a decent enough relationship with them, right? We're going to go get you set up with Ford, Ally, GM, stuff like that, to go get your vehicles financed on just your EIN only. You don't need to be as big as what some people tell you, right? Like you can be actually a pretty small company and get a decent line.
So let's dig into that a little bit, Paul.
Yeah.
So I've got a company that is, he owns, a remodeling company,
Yep.
and he's got, his truck, and he's starting to buy trucks for his guys, but he's buying all used trucks. And I keep telling him, I'm like, look, you're spending $3,000 a year doing maintenance stuff on these trucks that you're not going to have to do on a new one.
Yep.
And when you pull up to the job sites, you look like old busted, whenever they're expecting new hotness. Now, I'm not saying pull up in, Elon Musk electric trucks, but I'm just saying it's like pull up in a Ford that's wrapped.
Fleet.
Yeah, is super. So how does that guy, like he's probably makes $250,000 a year. He went from being solo to now he has 3 employees. How does that guy approach going to Ford and getting a line of credit? Or can he?
Yeah, so you can. It's all about your structure, right? So you got to be an LLC. You can't be a sole prop, preferably an S corp. If you're getting bigger, C corp's obviously going to be the best. You got to have a business credit score. You got to know what your Paydex score is, which is Duns and Bradstreet. You got to know what Experian is. You got to know what Equifax is. Ford, GM, Ally are typically going to look at your PayNet, which is Equifax, and Experian, right? In order to really even have a conversation with them of being able to do stuff on the EIN only, you need to have scores that get you past that first hurdle. I've got a guy that runs a company up in Green Bay, north of Green Bay, Wisconsin. He last year did about $287,000 in sales. He's on pace for about $750,000 this year. And officially 2 years in business, as of, what is it? We're already in August, right? So June. And he just got his first GM 3500 on EIN alone, just because we kind of cleaned up, got his business credit going. And you do that through fuel cards. You do that through setting up with the right vendors. A lot of these guys use Home Depot and Lowe's. if you have stuff set up and structured right, you can actually go get commercial accounts with them that don't require personal guarantees that build up your business credit score. It's those little pieces and building blocks that actually build you into the bigger types of loans with Ford. A lot of the problems with people in my space with the business credit building is there's very few out there that actually teach it to go help you go and set up these bigger accounts with like Ford and these bigger banks. Cause like you can use business credit to get in with these bigger banks on some really good deals. But a lot of the guys teaching it also own their own lending companies. So they're teaching it to get you into their lending company to get you some different loans, maybe a little bit better loans, but then keep you within that fold.
Well, and they don't realize when I used to be a lender in the RV business, and I went to who paid me the most.
Yep.
It wasn't like what was the best interest rate. It was like, hey, this guy pays me 5 points and this guy pays me 3.
Yep.
I'm gonna take the 5 points. Thank you very much. Yes, your interest rate's 8.99. It's not 6.99. But it was because I was driven by that. And if you're not like driven by that, if you're just, do they pay you like a fee, or how does it work? Like, are you like an attorney where they pay you a monthly retainer, or?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. We get an upfront fee for setup, and then we also do a monthly recurring our contracts are usually for 12 months, but typical life cycle for a client is usually 8 to 12 is what they're in with us for. I've got a few that are decided to keep us on because they just like to be able to have access to me and my team whenever they need us to review loan documents. Right.
Yeah,
So
I think that's valuable because like I have a business attorney, and I mean I can pay him $500 an hour to go review my documents, but I end up paying him $1,500 to review something that 9 times out of 10 is like, yeah, just go for it. He's not understanding the lending side of it.
yep.
He's not addressing it as that. He's addressing it as the business side of it. Like, is it illegal?
Well,
And I think that would be valuable to have somebody like you on the team.
and it's fascinating to me too, because like I will push back on lawyers and I'll push back on CPAs on certain structures and setup as well. And and it's not even like pushing back, it's just telling the client, ask why. Why do you want it like this? Why is it best for me to do it this way? Is there a different way I could be doing this? Does it make sense for the way I'm trying to do this? I had a guy that I started working with, actually before I started working with him, was trying to set up a DBA. He was going to add maintenance, like appliance maintenance, onto his HVAC company. I was like, what's your lawyer telling you? He's like, well, they want me to start an entirely new business for this, new EIN, new structure, new everything. I'm like, are you going to be doing it in the same trucks and the same branding? He's like, yeah. I'm like, then why would you start an entirely new business? I said, you're giving up 8 years in business.
Yeah, 8 years of street cred. Yeah, you're giving up all your credibility.
Right. And he's like, I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, just DBA it, and now you can put it on the side of your truck that you also do appliance repairs because it's going to be under the same brand. You're going to be using the same bank accounts. Like, don't give up your time in business just because that's the easiest way for the lawyer to set this stuff up, if that's what they're going for, or it's the easiest way for them to make more money off of you. I don't know what their motive is. And I said it doesn't make sense from a lending standpoint because you're unwinding all of these years of credibility that you built up that now we've got to start from scratch again. That's dumb. So
yeah,
questions.
I can see that. Like, I think that's critical. So like, what's your smallest customer and what's your largest customer?
Yeah, our smallest customer is currently doing the one I was telling you about, the excavation company. They're doing. He just messaged me. They cleared 300,000 as of the end of this month. So they do winter work, so they'll be pushing for about that 700,000 this year.
They net 300,000 or they gross 300,000?
Gross.
Okay, gross.
Yeah.
Okay, so then their net would be more like probably under 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got to pay staff, they got to pay insurance, they got to pay all that kind of stuff.
But
okay,
he'll be pacing for next year. He'll be pacing for 2 million next year with this stuff.
Well, so I'm not speaking down to that. What I'm saying is like of my 2,000 employee guys that I deal with in business, I would say probably 90% of them are in that under $1 million category.
Mindset thing though for those guys, right? Because when you have that type of business, you have limited resources, you have limited forces for your cash. Our program is close to $8,000 for the year. So it's a mindset thing. Where do you want to be in 2 years? How do you want it to feel? How do you want to be positioned? What type of a lending relationship do you have? What type of access to capital do you want to have? When I met Josh, the owner of that company, he was getting denied for a HELOC loan for his house, and he was in a bad MCA loan. So I went and took him to a lender that understood businesses, got him into a HELOC, we got him out of it, and we rolled him into a startup SBA with some working capital through Huntington Bank, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now he's on his way where his Kubota stuff, all of that stuff is now under his business and off of him personally. And so now he can grow a little bit less cumbered, right? My biggest client is a HVAC company that will be doing close to like 18 million this year.
Okay. Yeah. And so I have companies that are doing, in our group that are doing 150 million plus. And then I have, like I said, 90% of the companies that are a million under. And I think the million and under crowd gets intimidated because they don't even really want to talk about what they do. If they do under, $500,000, they're like, well, I mean, I did $500,000. They don't want to talk about it. But there needs to be somebody that can coach them from here to there to where they can get there. Because the problem is that sometimes I feel like whenever I start talking about things, I'm talking up here, and you ever go fishing? You're not around you're on the Great Lakes, aren't you? Where you're at?
I've been up to the Great Lakes before, but yeah.
Okay. If you ever go deep sea fishing, we're in the South, so like we go deep sea fishing all the time. You ever go deep sea fishing and you start pulling a fish up from the bottom? Like if you reel them too fast, their whole inside explodes and their eyes bulge out. And sometimes when I'm talking to people, I can see their eyes bulging out, and they're like, "Okay, I got to slow the reel down here. Let me get it back down to the bottom a little bit, pull it back up." Because I think that's so hard, man, to understand like how to ask the questions and not feel like you're ignorant for asking them.
The advantage that I have working with some of these guys and bigger guys too is I ran a dealership. Basically ran a dealership that was putting out 80 to 125 cars a month.
Right.
Our service department was churning through 150 to 200 service vehicles a month. Right. So we're a big dealership. I've seen the profit loss statements for that. I've understood how to read profit loss statements and look at the financials. And then I was over with a company that grew from that 16 and a half to 42 mil, right? We went from 21 employees to 62 employees in 2 years. So I've been part of that growth. Now I'm in a company where we're 2.5 years in, and this year right now, if we stay on pace, we'll hit about 750,000. So like I'm in that spot with these guys, so I can communicate from a high level because I've been there and I've seen it. But I can also communicate from where we're at because I'm there and I'm doing the things myself.
Right.
Sometimes the disadvantage of being a business owner versus employee is like trying to get yourself outside of the box so you can read the directions. We all get caught up in there sometimes. But helping them come around and understand that helps sometimes when you're at that same level with them. And it's almost, instead of like you're standing way up here and they're looking way up at you going, what the heck are you even saying? You're just a step above them and going, hey, take my hand. Let's get up to this next step. Now let's go do this next thing together.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Paul. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Tracy.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.